Support lines are overwhelmed, and customers are getting hung up on as they try to figure out what's going on after tens of thousands of games have been removed from itch.io and Steam. These gamers are just trying to get answers, but nobody from Visa seems to have a clear explanation.
So I know Visa's doing that, but I guess Mastercard was doing the same thing, trying to push people out. And if people are just getting hung up on, that's just gonna piss more people off, and more people are gonna be calling them. I bet. I know when I get hung up on, I want to call them.
In the meantime, Mastercard has released an official statement for this issue. Both Steam and itch.io are facing a massive wave of censorship. On itch.io, the platform completely de-indexed all adult content from search.
What? From 17,000 titles to only 47? Bro, these people gotta stop,
And
man.
browse pages. This was a drastic move, which itch.io confirmed they had to make to protect the platform's core payment infrastructure. But this isn't just an itch.io problem. Steam has also been quietly delisting games even after the first initial ones.
Man, this sucks
More
because
games are getting removed from
Steam is like my favorite platform too. Yeah, not your goon games. I know we don't want that. That that sucks because, like, for the people that like these games, I don't usually play these, but for the people that want to play these, they're not illegal. There's nothing wrong with them. It might be a little weird, but that's not for me to say either. And these companies shouldn't be able to say that either.
Steam, even some with very little adult content. The reason for all of this is intense pressure from payment networks like Visa and Mastercard, or even other ones like PayPal and Stripe. Although some wanted to
PayPal's in on it too?
just blame Steam for removing these games, they essentially had no choice.
What
In a
is that?
post Collective Shout made trying to celebrate, as they really only care about censoring as many things as possible, they specifically mention how they tried to get
Steam campaign timeline. In response to false claims and misinformation about our campaign, we're setting the record straight. Some have asked why we involve payment processors, and others have claimed we are responsible for itch.io removing all NSFW content. We raised our objection to these certain games. I'm not going to read some of those. On Steam for months, and they ignored us for months. We approached payment processors because Steam did not respond to us. We called on itch.io to remove some of these games. Itch.io made the decision to remove all NSFW content. Our objections our objections were to content that involved sexualized violence and torture of women. But then they removed everything, because not all of the games are doing that.
to listen to them for months, but obviously Valve never listened. So they had to take it a step further and complain to payment processors instead, which is where these companies like Visa and Mastercard were able to abuse their power and force games to get removed. Now, itch.io is taking a two-part approach to this problem. The first is a long-term plan, finding new payment partners who are more accepting of a wider range of content. This is a crucial step for the platform to become less dependent on the rules of a few powerful companies. While this doesn't fix the underlying issue of these payment processors controlling what gets.
In the meantime, we are actively reaching out to other payment processors that are more willing to work with this kind of content. We have suspended the ability to pay with Stripe for 18 plus content for the foreseeable future. Our immediate focus has been on content classification reviews and implementing stricter age gating on the site. I mean, that's inevitable. They just need to protect the kids more. And I don't think the payment processors, though, should be saying what we should be able to buy and not buy. It's ridiculous.
Sold, it gives itch.io a fighting chance to bring back the removed content and continue supporting adult games. Itch.io has begun relisting some free adult games. This is a huge piece of the puzzle. Since these games don't require a payment processor, their return proves that the issue isn't with itch.io or Steam's rules, but with the financial companies themselves. Like we talked about in our last video, gamers aren't having any of it and are now using the same tactics Collective Shout used to express their complaints to payment processors like.
So many people have been calling from what I've seen on Twitter, like, or on X. A lot of people are pretty upset about it, and so that's really the only way we could fight back on this. We have to do the same stuff that they've done to our games to us forever on trying to shut us down on everything else that they don't like.
Visa and Mastercard. I am actively seeing more reports of users calling these companies to complain, and this organized
seen a
effort
lot.
is having a visible effect on their customer service. Support staff are now clearly overwhelmed. I have seen a bunch of reports and stories from people who have said they called Visa and then would just get hung up on, which I 100%
Call Visa, ask about the censorship. You need to email us. So I can get a generic email? I'd like to speak to your manager. Please wait. Picks up. I'm about to transfer you. Okay. Okay, yes, you need to go make it an email. Hangs up. Really? What was...
stories from people who have said they called Visa.
The tales are true. I called Visa, and as soon as I mentioned the Steam itch.io situation, the operator audibly sighed and paused for a few seconds and told me I was on an emergency-only line, their main customer service number, and I emailed them instead. Then she hung up.
And then would just
Visa card representative yelled at me. I called this number and simply asked about the content guideline. We've been getting thousands of calls. You talked to someone? Who did you call? Other people accepted what I said, so why don't you?
get hung up on, which I 100%
Man.
believe because every time I've told
LMAO, I call Visa's customer support service. The guy on the other line was like, are you also calling about the video game payment processing? Please send us emails instead. Keep up the calls, folks. We're definitely gumming up their works. I think that
Visa,
it's
I would
good.
get a similar response. It would start off great, but as soon as the customer service agent on the other end realized what I was talking about, whether it was because I mentioned Steam or video games or censorship, they would instantly speak over me, tell me to send an email, and then just hang up. Even if I didn't stop talking, they would just sigh and repeat the same response over and over. Another time, the Visa
Hello. Thank you for reaching out and sharing your perspective. As a global company, we follow the laws and regulations everywhere we do business. Obviously not if they're censoring games. Hey, Avro, how's it going, bro? Good to see you. Yeah, different. While we explicitly prohibit illegal activity on our network, we are equally committed to protecting legal commerce. If a transaction is legal, our policy is to process the transaction. We do not make moral judgments on legal purchases made by consumers. Visa does not moderate content sold by merchants, nor do we have visibility into the specific goods or services sold when we process a transaction. When a legally operating merchant faces an elevated risk of illegal activity, we require enhanced safeguards for the bank supporting those merchants. It sounds to me like someone's lying in the whole situation, you know?
rep just reread the Visa email we talked about in our previous video before hanging up like that was supposed to fix the issue. Every call had nearly the exact same response from Visa saying to email so they can send you this copy-paste response, and then they would just hang up. With every call having a similar response, it seems extremely likely that the Visa support staff was briefed on the situation and what to say.
They
Or in
probably
this
told
case,
everyone
say
to ignore
pretty much
them.
nothing at all and then just hang up. It seems
Pretty much say, send us an email that goes directly into our spam mailbox that we will never open up. I bet that's what they're doing. They're probably giving them a janky email or something.
seems pretty clear that Visa is now getting overwhelmed by the backlash, although some will say don't annoy these innocent employees who have no say in the matter. Well, this is the exact strategy Collective Shout
Just seen a
used,
llama.
and it worked. So as Visa seems to be getting tired over the phone, it doesn't seem like gamers are stopping anytime soon. The goal is to make Visa realize that if they want to listen to these activist groups like Collective Shout, the backlash will be much larger. Now, as I'm making
I feel like there's a lot more gamers that are going to be pissed about this than the Collective Shout people trying to get a shutdown. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking doing that, but nowadays with the internet and we could just call out everyone's bullcrap and it's all online in front of our face with a little bit of research. I don't know why they're doing this.
making this video, even Mastercard has responded to the situation. Previously, we had Visa, and now is Mastercard.
Okay, clarifying recent headlines on gaming content. Mastercard has not evaluated any game or required restrictions of any activity on game creator sites and platforms. Contrary to media reports and allegations, they did it. They know they did it. They're just trying to deflect. Our payment network follows standards based on the rule of law. Put simply, we allow all lawful purchases on our network. At the same time, we require merchants to have appropriate controls to ensure Mastercard's cards cannot be used for unlawful purchases, including illegal adult content.
Saying clarifying recent headlines on gaming content. Mastercard has not evaluated any game
Oh, there he's
or
gonna read it.
required restrictions of any activity on game creator sites and platforms, contrary to media reports and allegations. Our payment network
There's
follows
that other-
standards based on the rule of law. Put simply, we allow all lawful purchases on our network. At the same time, we require merchants to have appropriate controls to ensure Mastercard cards cannot be used for unlawful purchases, including illegal adult content. So very similar to Visa, they're pretty much saying that they allow all lawful purchases and really only go after illegal adult content. But within just hours of this being posted, it has quickly been community.
Both Steam and itch have stated their removal of adult content came from pressure by payment processors, including Mastercard. They're getting called out. They're going to get either proven to be the ones pushing to remove games, or Steam and itch are lying, which I think mostly Steam has come out and said stuff about it. But if that's the case, like what do they do? Can they sue these companies? Can they get sued? Like for they're basically lying, right?
Saying both Steam and itch have stated their removal of adult content came from pressure by payment processors, including Mastercard. Furthermore, Mastercard and other payment processors have a documented history of refusing service to Japanese retailers over legal adult content. So although both Visa and Mastercard are trying to deny it, their history speaks for itself. Although these obviously aren't the responses we want, I think this is a pretty good sign because it shows we have these payment processor companies' attention. And if we potentially keep up the pressure, they will just have to listen. Stripe, which is one of the main payment processors used on itch.io, has directly addressed the situation. They confirmed that they will not be able to support adult content that fits the following definition: content designed for sexual gratification.
Well, why not?
Stripe
Everyone
also
else
wanted to
was
pass
doing
this
it.
message along to gamers. Stripe is currently unable to support sexually explicit content due to restrictions placed on them by their banking partners, despite card networks generally supporting adult content with the appropriate registrations. Stripe has indicated that they hope to be able to support adult content in the future, which is a bit interesting because they say they want to support adult content in the future, but due to their banking partners, they can't. This raises the next question: who are these banking partners? When
who's telling them not to do it?
Why they can't work with certain businesses, they point directly to the strict rules and regulations of payment networks like Visa and Mastercard. This proves that even though Stripe in this situation is the direct processor, they are still under the control of these larger networks like Visa and Mastercard.
I've never even heard of Stripe. Have you guys even heard of that? I've really only heard of Visa, Mastercard, and then now you have, what is it, Venmo, and then a lot of people are doing what they said earlier. There's not really that many options, I don't think. You don't really have many choices.
If you remember this elevated risk line from Visa's email, well, it's back. When Stripe explains elevated risk...
Visa does not moderate content sold by merchants, nor do we have visibility into the specific goods or services sold. When a legally operating merchant faces an elevated risk of illegal activity, we require enhanced safeguards for the banks supporting those merchants. So whatever safeguards they put in place, right? If they do that, then why would they just ban it altogether or pressure you to not buy them at all or block it completely? If the merchants are taking the extra safeguards, which I feel like normally they do, like you have to verify that you're over a certain age when you're buying stuff like that on Steam already. And so if that process is already happening, what else can you do? I feel like Steam's already got a good process for this that falls under that falls under the category, of the merchant facing the risk. So I don't see the big deal. You agree that adult games like H games should not be on Steam where we get our games at? Oh, so do you think um, that they should have like a separate platform specifically just for adult games? I mean, I guess I could see that if that's kind of what you're saying, Avra. Um, but I don't think they should necessarily block it completely, though. I mean, I could see moving everything to one designated platform for that. I could see that being maybe a good idea. But a lot of these games probably on Steam, I think Steam's the best chance for a lot of these games to even make money. I mean, Steam's the most popular PC platform. But I could see that. I think I can agree with that too. If it's all separate. But I don't think they should be removed completely though. I think there should be somewhere to get them if people want to access that content, especially if it's not illegal. So, one thing though, the main issue is payment processors should not have this power. They shouldn't. They have basically a monopoly because there's so many people that use Visa and Mastercard, and there's not that many other options. Who are these guys to tell us what we can and can't buy? It's not right. You understand that some games has some sexual content, but if it's straight up porn, I can see it being separate. Yeah, I could see that for sure. There's some games that are only that, but also if they have designated sites for that, I see that being fine. I see like regular games shouldn't be affected though. I think they remove some normal games too that just have sexual content in the game. Like I think they removed GTA 3 or something like that. I could be wrong on that, but I think I saw somewhere that was removed at some point from Steam. Maybe it's back. Maybe that didn't get removed, but games like that I think were being targeted. All right, I'll move on.
Line from Visa's email. Well, it's back. When Stripe explains businesses that pose a brand risk, pornography is included. Financial institutions and
Yeah, and I
payment
can
networks
see that.
care about the brand and reputational risk that associated businesses pose. There are a set of businesses that our financial partners do not want to be associated with, even if there is a market demand for them. Stripe doesn't independently reject businesses based on brand risk. We have many unpopular businesses and causes on Stripe, but we are at times obliged to enforce the restrictions of our partners. This confirms what
Yeah, which I could see that. Like GTA, I mean, all those games are rated 18 plus anyways, I think. So I don't see the big issue with those. But I don't think anything should be getting removed. If anything, it should just be moved to somewhere else. I don't think anything should be getting removed though completely. These companies should still be processing the transactions either way, I think.
we've seen before. Visa and Mastercard have the power to force companies to follow their rules. They don't necessarily have to be a direct payment processor on a platform like itch.io. They just have to be somewhere in the payment chain to have complete control. Stripe even further explains this when they tried to work with a startup, but were forced to stop after their financial partners did not agree. So although Visa claims they don't moderate content,
which they are moderating content. I think no matter what they say, everyone can see right through their bullshit.
Simply just force any company they are working with to follow their rules, or they won't work with them. This shows a very dangerous power dynamic, where a few powerful financial companies can dictate what is and isn't acceptable, even when the content is perfectly legal. But as Itch has confirmed, they are currently in talks with new payment processors, which will hopefully be a step in the right direction. I have reached out to Valve for a statement on if they will be looking for new payment processors or going to be re-adding crypto as an option. So if I hear back, I will for sure give you an update. Of course, these aren't solutions that will fix the underlying problem.
There's another video that he came out with after this.
To get involved, but it will at least give control back to these platforms so they don't have to follow the rules of these payment processors. The outcome of this situation will have a long-lasting impact on gamers and developers everywhere. Will platforms like Steam find a stable solution, or will this be a permanent shift in what kind of content is allowed online?
Your best.
Okay, I gotta figure out.
support line.
I gotta figure out how to turn off autoplay. But that was a really good video. I just want more people to know about this. Let's watch this one real quick, too. Valve reveals Mastercard lied about censoring games.
Valve just called out Mastercard and Visa's lies and revealed what happened behind the scenes that led to Steam adding Rule 15, giving power to payment.
Rule 15. Content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers, in particular certain kinds of adult-only content.
Processors to decide what content is allowed on the platform. This controversy isn't just about games. It's about whether large corporations should be able to dictate.
What is he doing? He's crashing out. He's throwing his headset and his camera fell down. What is he doing? What game is that?
Legal content creators can sell online.
After
After tens of thousands of legal games were removed, gamers started fighting back against Visa and Mastercard by mass calling and emailing them, with numerous news sites picking up the story. This led to Visa and Mastercard both issuing responses. Visa now has a standard reply that they will share on every email.
Okay, yeah, so we kind of saw some of this.
Which essentially just says they do not make moral judgments or moderate content. Mastercard also issued an official response saying Mastercard has not evaluated any game or required restrictions of any activity on game creator sites and platforms, contrary to media reports and allegations. Our payment network follows standards based on the rule of law. Simply put, we allow all lawful purchases on our network. At the same time, we require merchants to have appropriate controls to ensure Mastercard cards cannot be used for unlawful purchases, including illegal adult content. So
yeah, which none of it's illegal, that's the thing. And so they're still telling people what they can and can't do.
It's pointed to payment processors. Collective Show said it was them. Steam and Itch both said they were pressured by them, but both Visa and Mastercard tried to deny anything was happening. So this is where, just hours after Mastercard released their statement, Valve wasn't having any of it. They gave another response to the situation, which, if you know Valve, is very rare. So it seems they want to set the record straight, as Valve sent this message out to multiple journalists. Mastercard...
I don't think I've ever seen Valve really reply to stuff so fast. You ended up with some wrong message you today. You don't know who Kate is, but you got their dinner invitation. Well, are you going at least? What is it? Are they doing a barbecue? If it's a barbecue, I'd go.
Did not communicate with Valve directly, despite our request to do so. Mastercard communicated with payment processors and their acquiring banks. Payment processors communicated this with Valve, and we replied by outlining Steam's policy since 2018 of attempting to distribute games that are legal for distribution. Payment processors rejected this and specifically cited Mastercard's Rule 5.12.7 and risk to the Mastercard brand.
When they say risk to the brand, though, that means they could technically say anything is a risk to the brand. There's no black and white line. It's a huge gray area. It doesn't make any sense.
So even though Mastercard tried to say they have not evaluated any game or platform, Valve's new statement says it wasn't directly Mastercard themselves, but someone else who Mastercard contacted and then used Mastercard's own rules as the reason for removing the content. So Mastercard, were you involved or not? Or are you just using some third-party company to deflect blame like it wasn't you? When you look at the specific rule that they cited to force Steam to remove games, it gets even worse. Mastercard Rule 5.12.7. Illegal or brand damaging transactions. This is key because brand damaging just means they can remove any content they don't like. Any transaction that is illegal or in the sole discretion of the corporation may damage the goodwill of the corporation or reflect negatively on the marks. The corporation considers any of the following activities to be in violation of this rule: the sale of a product or service including an image which is patently offensive and lacks serious artistic value.
Patently offensive?
Such as images of non-consensual sexual behavior, sexual exploitation of a minor, non-consensual mutilation of a person or body part, and bestiality, or any other part that the corporation deems unacceptable to sell in connection with a mark.
It's that last line, too. any other material that the corporation deems unacceptable to sell in connection with the mark. But it's not illegal. It should stop with, is this a legal transaction or not? Okay, we'll process this. If it's an illegal transaction, no, block it and figure out what the heck's going on.
So this rule pretty much means MasterCard is able to point out any content they find unacceptable and get it removed, or they will stop giving you service. This rule is the exact one they use to force Valve to listen. And even though Valve pointed out that they allow all legal content, they just wouldn't listen. So what's really happening here? MasterCard's denial seems like a way to avoid bad press, but their rules are clearly the reason these games were removed. This isn't an isolated incident either. The same kind of pressure was likely behind itch.io losing its payment processing with Stripe over adult games. Stripe's explanation also mentioned a need to follow the rules of card networks like Visa and Mastercard. Now, Valve did mention it wasn't Mastercard directly talking to them, as Mastercard talked to their payment processors and then they reached out to Valve. So even though Mastercard wants to deny it, all signs are pointing to them being involved. Now,
so MasterCard and then whoever's over MasterCard, I guess, or whoever, because MasterCard and Visa are probably connected in one way or another. I mean, you would think with how big the companies are.
Steam doesn't use Stripe like itch.io, but they do use PayPal. And get this, just before Rule 15 was added, some people noticed that PayPal was having a service disruption on Steam. This raises some serious questions about whether that was connected to the pressure from Mastercard and Visa.
I usually don't use PayPal for anything. I use Venmo more, but for like work stuff. But I usually just try and buy the Steam gift cards with cash, and then that's how I try and buy stuff on Steam. I mean, I have a card attached, but I've never had an issue with the card going through. But also, I've never tried buying these type of games, so.
New information that we got from Valve reveals how this process works. MasterCard doesn't have to directly tell a platform what to do. They can apply pressure to the companies that handle the payments for those platforms, forcing their hand. This is a key detail that explains why MasterCard and Visa are publicly denying any involvement, because they think if they do this telephone game, well, it's not their fault, even though the reason for these games getting removed is a specific MasterCard rule.
People know, and people, I think, are going to keep bothering them until they either get the people who are over MasterCard or the partners to change their mind. Because this could be potentially brand damaging by not allowing these transactions to go through. I mean, just a thought. I don't know. It's possible, you know.
While MasterCard's Rule 5.12.7 is the one being used against Valve right now, Visa also has its own rules for merchants that grant similar power to police content, and they could just as easily use it against Steam. So although both Visa and MasterCard are trying to say they process all legal payments, their rules say the exact opposite. This allows these companies to act like gatekeepers, even if it means hurting legal creators. Now, while GOG isn't directly involved in this specific issue,
I want to read
creators. Now, while
thanks for the dedication of developers and publishers. We are launching Freedom to Buy Games. Buy.games. Okay. To raise awareness on censorship in gaming, 13 games are now available for free for 48 hours as part of Stand for Creative Freedom and Preservation. We believe that if a game is legal and responsibly made, players should be able to enjoy it today and decades from now. GOG is another really, really, really good company, I think. It's our statement. When games are delisted today because of discomfort, reviving them tomorrow becomes exponentially harder. So we'll have to check out this website. Maybe I'll link this too.
GOG isn't directly involved in this specific issue. They have publicly taken a stand against censorship in gaming.
We're fighting back.
Even now giving away free games to show their support. One of them even includes Post-02. This highlights the growing concern in the game
I actually didn't check
this issue and
GOG, but
everyone is coming together to fight this problem.
I missed out on the free game.
Your game might not be involved in this issue, but soon enough it will be. It's bad enough that MasterCard's rules say that they can stop you from selling any content they find unacceptable, but it even mentions...
Yeah, so if there's no line drawn, pretty soon they're going to be attacking all of our other games. They're going to be attacking GTA 6. They're going to attack all the FPS shooters. They're probably going to attack um, a lot of the FPS, uh, a lot of the FPS style shooters. Like, I don't know, a lot of the ones like the really realistic ones that are almost what do they call that? Like military sims or whatever. I bet they'll get rid of stuff like that. Yeah, it's like they're trying to make the world boring. I agree. It's dumb. It's dumb.
Non-consensual mutilation of a person or body part. So it seems like if they want to, they can turn this rule around and then go after violent games next. Either way,
Yeah,
this issue doesn't
that's
seem
what
to
I
be
worry
stopping
about. I like
anytime
my
soon.
violent games.
The fact Valve responded to the situation again is a pretty big deal, as they are usually very quiet. So as Valve calls out Mastercard's lies, the clash between gamers and these financial giants is just beginning, and the outcome will define
Ooh.
the future of online content.
Dang. Well, another good video. Um, check that one out. Give him a like. Oh, I'm worried to see what's gonna happen. I'm sure there's gonna be more info on this. I'm hoping it doesn't get any worse, and I'm hoping they could turn some stuff around and maybe bring a lot of these games back. I really hope they do because I don't want this to keep happening, you know. I really don't. It's not good. It's really not good.